Welcome back to another episode of Young Married Christian.
What are we trying to do here?
At Young Married Christian, we're on a mission to see a gospel-centered home made available for every single child in the foster care system. And in this episode, Devo talks to my good friend, David Dunn. You have heard David on Spotify. You've heard him on a K-Love station near you.
How did he get verified?
You probably even saw him on NBC's The Voice a few years back. Dave is incredible. He is brilliant. And you're going to love this conversation.
Yeah, so brilliant and intelligent that I thought even I was intelligent for a while during the conversation.
All I know is I don't know.
One of my favorite things was just getting to hear the history and the journey of where he went from the beginning until now and everything with his career.
I have never seen a tombstone say I didn't work enough.
A lot of unexpected twists and turns.
Yep. And one of the parts of the conversation that I really liked was Dave talking about the cultural differences between Africa and the U.S.
I can see an immediate impact in somebody's life.
He actually lived in Zambia for about 11 months. I got to hang out with him in the summer of 2008 in Zambia. And so him talking about that dynamic was super interesting.
I wanna go back.
Yeah, and how alien our culture feels to that, and kind of how alien our Christian culture is to collaboration.
He's a life changer, miracle arranger.
We talked about why we don't see as many Christian collaborations as we want. That's it. So hold on to your prayer beads, Whitney. You know Whitney? Because we are young, married, Christian. So weird. Today we have David Dunn, aka The Dave, aka Double D's, aka throw some D's on it.
I don't think any of those actually happen.
I'm pretty sure those are all your nicknames.
Okay.
That's what's popping on Wikipedia these days.
I need to check out my Wikipedia page then. Maybe do a few incognito edits.
Okay, so we're so excited to have you today. Thank you so much for coming on the show. One thing that I need to ask all of our guests is, what's your favorite fast food restaurant other than Chick-fil-A? And when you go to it, what are you ordering?
That's easy. I think they might even have these in Florida. Nah, In-N-Out Burger, without question.
We need it.
I should say, it's not in Florida?
No.
I should say Whataburger because I'm from Texas. And so it's blasphemous a little bit for me to say In-N-Out Burger. But I have In-N-Out Burger flowing through my veins. And so I've been flushing it. I'm sorry, I have Whataburger flowing through my veins. And I have been slowly flushing it out with In-N-Out Burger.
And we don't even have to ask you what you order because there's just one thing on the menu.
Yeah, you get the double. That's it.
And you get it animal style?
I do not get animal style. I don't get it.
Frisky.
Do not get... Wait, animal style is frisky?
No, it's frisky that you don't get it that way.
Interesting.
So, okay, let's jump into it. The Human Condition, your song came out years ago. What was going on when you wrote that song?
There's actually like two separate stories involved with that one.
Okay, we'll start with the first.
Okay, first story is I was driving down the road in Nashville, Tennessee, is where I live. I was driving down the road, and I felt as if I was doing a pretty good job of driving, but there was a woman behind me that disagreed. And so she did the horn thing, and like right up on my bumper, and I'm like, come around, doing that thing. What are you doing? And she like guns it and pulls up next to me and slams on the brakes so that she's going the same 35 miles an hour or whatever it was going next to me, and then like looks out her window and tells me that I'm number one.
Hey, that's good.
And I have no idea why she was so upset, but she was. So that's story number one. Story number two is like 2 days later, I'm at Chick-fil-A, God's house.
Mm.
And I'm standing in line, and there's this cat in front of me. He's probably like 55 years old, and he's bald. And I'm like half paying attention because that's mostly what I do. And he's ordering, and he like gets livid. There's like a 16-year-old girl who she works at Chick-fil-A, so she's like the sweetest human being on the planet. She's sitting back there taking his order, and he like loses it on her. I just start screaming, causing a scene. So I tune in immediately, like, oh. is God's house. What's he doing?
This can't be happening here.
This can't be happening here.
This isn't Popeyes.
You don't pray.
No offense to Popeyes. I love your sandwiches.
Yeah, that was very offensive to Popeyes, but we'll move on.
Look, I'm just going off the videos I see on the internet.
Popeyes is pretty good.
Yeah.
When they did like the chicken sandwich comparison thing, that was ridiculous, but those chicken sandwiches are good though. Did you like Popeyes better?
No, I like Chick-fil-A better.
Yeah, of course you do. Because they're better. They're way better. But they're good sandwiches.
Yeah.
I was shocked. What was I just talking about?
You were saying that you were at Chick-fil-A
Oh, the
and
bald
there
guy.
was a kerfuffle.
Nice word. So the dude flips out on this 16-year-old girl, and I, in the course of like listening to him scream, I had figured out that he wanted like a handful of Chick-fil-A sauces, and she was offering him 2, which normally they'll give you a bunch, and so I can kind of, I'm not on this guy's side, but in the same moment I'm going, this is a 16-year-old girl. She looks very pleasant, and this dude is flipping out on her.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of places are charging you per sauce packet.
But not Chick-fil-A.
No.
Well, maybe this location. I don't know. I don't really know what was going on. All I know is that 55-year-old bald guy, with the shine. Mr. Clean was very angry.
It's tough times at that Chick-fil-A.
Something. It was COVID.
No,
No, it wasn't. This was before COVID.
no explanation
there's
here.
no excuse there. So anyway, all right, so those 2 stories happen in succession. And here's what I realized. Mostly when we interact with human beings on this planet, we brush them in passing. And that's really all we get from them. We see this tiny blip on our radar, and we make snap evaluations or judgments on who that person is based on these quick little passings. And I live on a street, and we've lived there, I think, like a year at this time. I lived on a street, or live on a street, to where really I don't know any of my neighbors. And I was driving down that road and seeing it was at nighttime, and I could just see all of these porch lights.
It was a Wednesday night, I believe.
It was a Wednesday night. It's funny, you know that. It's in the song, for people who don't know.
Well, yeah.
And I realized that the extent of my knowledge of these people is just this brush. That's all I know about them. And all of those porch lights represent an entire existence. 50, 60, 80, we live in an older neighborhood. Years of life that I really don't know anything about.
Most of us don't nowadays. It's not like our parents' generation where, we went to our neighbor's house to get butter and sugar.
Totally. But it extends to even like everyone, right? You really only know a couple of people, a handful, this inner circle. You know these people because you've been in their lives and you understand them. And everybody else, it's just a brush. And so I don't know what those people's story is. I don't know what Mr. Clean's story is at Chick-fil-A, but he has one. And the woman with the finger, I don't know what her story is either, but she has one. I'm going to make some things up here because I have no idea. But this could be the case. It could be that Mr. Clean, he just found out he's getting evicted. He doesn't have any money. He's gone in 2 days. And here he is at Chick-fil-A, and this is when I brushed him. And I made the evaluation. This guy's a chotch. This guy's a jerk.
Of course.
This guy's the worst. That's my evaluation. The woman with the finger, same thing. Maybe she found out that she has cancer. She just found out she has cancer. Probably not, right? I'm just making stuff up here. But something, right? There was she was probably 50. There's 50 years of reasons why she came to this point. And maybe this is how she always is, or maybe this is just this moment. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there is a reason. And so human condition is acknowledging that those brushes are occasions for us who love Jesus to be grace to other people, to be kind, because everyone has a story, and we forget that. We forget that people have stories. We tend to treat them as if they are the brush that we thought they were. And so I think that's when Jesus talks about judgment in the Bible. I think a big portion of that is not acknowledging where people have come from, really their story, that people have stories. And I'm not excusing the behavior. I'm not saying that it's okay what they did.
Right. But it's so hard for people to have that empathy in the moment when they feel personally attacked and their pride walls come up and they immediately want to have that mirror neuron effect where you give it to me, I give it right back.
Right back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then for me, it's like with the woman with the finger especially, it's like a 15, 20-minute linger of me being like, right?
Well, that story of you like telling her to go around you, life hack if you didn't know this, if a cop flips on his lights behind you and you just roll down your window and you tell him to go around, sometimes it'll confuse them enough to where they won't pull you over.
Is that true?
My father taught me that. I watched it happen.
I'll put that one in my hip pocket.
Sorry.
I would like to pause for a second to say I've been a lot of places in my life. I've been everywhere in the United States. That's not true, but all of the big places.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not believe that there are any worse drivers than people in Orlando, Florida.
Welcome home, Sunshine State.
I am shocked by the amount of ineptitude. You people are delightful.
Well, it's a combination of tourists, retirees, and college kids over at Disney.
It's a really tough combo.
Yeah. So that song, even though it was written, years ago, and it sounds like you had these personal experiences that made it very relatable. And I mean, who can't ever relate to needing more kindness in the world and seeing the fact that, yeah, there are so many people out there that you don't know anything about their story. But like last year to me felt like, obviously because of COVID, it felt like a very different year, but it was groundbreaking because of like the racial division and the diversity that we experience as a country. Which even like we took a vacation to the Virgin Islands and we could even see that, Black Lives Matter even there. And so it's something that hit our country in a very big way. So I feel like that song's even more relatable now. How did last year with everything going on, how did that have an effect on you?
Here's the thing. I'm gonna take a different tact here.
Okay.
Here's what I'll say. I think last year was the year of the internet. I know we say it's the year of COVID, 2020, but I think it was the year of the internet. And here's what I believe is mostly what happened last year, is that we lived in a space that wasn't real. The internet is not real. Social media is not real, right? It's not me on social media that's talking to people. It is my avatar that I've created. All you got to do is look at people's faces. Those aren't their real lives. That's not the way they behave on social media. This is something they've created for themselves.
You're telling me you and Leen are not constantly smiling with your children?
Yeah,
in the woods?
Sometimes I have to clean up the poop all over me from my 2-year-old.
Okay, keep going.
And by sometimes, I mean all the time. We're trying to potty train. That's neither here nor there. What was I talking about? I have ADD.
You're talking about how the internet's not real.
Right.
Yeah.
So the year of 2020 was the year of the internet, right? And so with basically all of the conflict, or a big portion of it, I think the majority of it is the internet being the internet, right? The anger, the hostility, the frustration. I felt all of that, but it was on the internet. You go out in real life, and there was a couple of weeks to where I walked around, and I'm a white guy, and I walked around, and every black person that I saw, I'd go, oh, that guy hates me, right?
The dreads didn't help?
They do actually help in real life.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about real life and fake life, right? Is I came to the conclusion after a couple of weeks, this isn't real, right? It is to a certain extent, but this isn't the way that the world actually is. Everybody doesn't hate everyone else, but on the internet, everyone hates everyone else. And so I think that's a big thing that I learned about 2020 is the difference between reality and the internet. I'm not saying it's not the case in bubbles and that it's 100% off, but the vehemence and hatred and throat slitting that is constantly happening on the internet, it doesn't occur in any world that I'm around, right? And I'm around I think a big portion of the worlds in Nashville, especially. And for the most part, it's how it was, which there are good eggs and bad eggs, and people are mostly kind to each other with exceptions. And like, I don't think things actually like radically changed and hatred went to a new level like they did on the internet. Like, I don't believe that.
Right. But people were believing it because we couldn't go outside to see anything different. And we're watching.
The internet is all we had last year. So all we had was the internet, and that was happening at the same time. So I can't remember where this started now, but that's how I feel about last year.
I think it started with Tiger King, but
It started with Tiger King. Started with mullets, which is how things always go downhill in a hurry. And we've ended with mullets. I don't know if you know this, but it's like a new big thing. My mother pulled up some pictures of some kids in high school from my old stomping grounds. She was like, "This is what all the cool kids are doing now." And I was like, "They're not cool."
I once had a mullet. What are you saying?
You're very cool. I'm just playing. Actually, I'd rock a mullet.
Yeah, I want a Jedi braid so bad. But anyways, we're getting off topic. Yeah. So I feel like that what happened last year was we're all, home. We are just getting our news from the internet or watching the news. We've got an election year. We have people that aren't going to their jobs. So they got a lot of free time, so they're going out and doing a lot of stuff. And then you forget about the fact that there's so much kindness that you can create and then other people are creating, like the people that aren't getting put up on the news. Quick story. 2 days ago, we went to Universal Studios. There's crazy amount of traffic, and I'm talking to James, and he's saying, he's in this like hour-long wait or whatever, and I've just waited an hour, and I get to the front, I see a family, their cars broke down, they've ran out of gas. Coincidentally, you know what song's playing on my radio? The Human Condition.
Now we're talking.
It was like literally God wasn't just whispering in my ear. God was like choke slamming me. And the fact that I just finished the season of Ted Lasso, it's just like all on my heart of like kindness. And then I'm hearing the story about, we might be on different roads, but we're on the same street. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to do something. I've got to help this guy out. So what do? After I've waited an hour in this line, I go around, get this guy gas, come back, and he's not even there anymore. I don't know what the meaning of that is, but I now have a really good connection with the security guy at Universal, Victor.
Oh, yeah.
He's a great guy. How similar was Universal to your year in Africa?
Yeah. Yeah, the thing about that, that's the main thing about Africa is that it was incredibly lonely because I was the only Westerner, and you picked this up probably too when you were there. But because it is so ingrained culture, just profound loneliness occurs when nobody else speaks your language. And I don't mean physically; they spoke English mostly in Zambia, but there's profound loneliness when human interaction that we consider this is what humans do. Us, what we're doing right now, we go, this is what humans do. It's not what humans do. It's what Westerners do. And in Africa, they do it a different way. Even like friendship. Friendship looks different in Africa than it does in the West. Right? It's just these cultural differences are so, to the West, and I think probably for them as well, but from a Westerner's perspective, it looks as if this is an alien society. And I'm having to relearn how to be a being to be able to engage with them on the same wavelength.
What were some of those?
Incredibly lonely.
What were some of those things that you were just like, oh wow, this is apparently not how you guys do it?
It's a difficult thing to explain. Probably one of the best ones. I'd love to know if you have any stories, James. 'Cause James came and visited me when I was there. We were just talking about that a second ago, which was shocking. I totally forgot about that until 15 seconds ago. How long were you there? A month? 2 months. 2 months? You were there for 2 months? That's so wild.
It was right on the edge of you, because it was right on the edge of you being like, I don't know if I can do this much longer. But you knew I was coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, all right, I have to at least stick it out, because James planned his entire summer around it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I forgot.
When I first got there, you were not there. You had gone on like a little vacation with your sister, and you had brought Mary Catherine back with you.
Yeah.
And so I was there for like 2 days by myself, and so I felt that like, oh God, this is such a lonely.
It's so lonely. It's so lonely. What did you ask me, Deba? You said something. Sorry.
I was asking you, if there was anything that was obviously alienating about what they did.
Not alienating. Alien.
Sorry,
alien. I wasn't alienated.
So you felt part of the culture, but you felt like you were doing things a little differently.
No, I did not feel like I was part of the culture.
Oh.
A good way to even like the way we're speaking, right? This is a difficult thing to describe. This is like one of the only like really hard hitting examples that I have. Friendship is in Africa. It's more based on sharing materials than it is in America. So
you're saying materials, not like an Xbox, but you're saying more like you actually need this brick.
No, everything.
Okay.
Everything. So a good example was there was a dude in town. I lived in a place called Chingola, and there was a dude in town who his expression of the depth of our friendship was for him to like walk into my hut that I was in when I wasn't there and grab my clothes and take them for himself. And then I only knew because I was walking around town, and there he was wearing my shirt. And I walked up to him and I was like, "Nice shirt." And he was like, "Yes."
I love it.
Right? And so it's like, to them, it is like it's the expression of friendship. How much you're willing to give me. And me asking you for the thing, hey, can I have your shirt? I'm not asking for your shirt. I'm asking you, how deep is our friendship? And that's how we determine those things. So for us, a big portion, and I'm simplifying here, so take this with a tiny grain of salt. But for us, a big part of what we do as Westerners is go, what do we have in common? Do we enjoy being around each other? And how many shared experiences do we have? And those things still exist. It's not like they're completely gone, but the value chain of what's important is substantially different. I think I'm doing a lousy job of explaining this, but it's a very difficult thing to explain.
Well, what I'm hearing is in African culture, what mine is yours and what's yours is mine becomes a definition of how good of friends we are. So whereas in America, it's like, I might lend.
Are you using me? In America, this is a negative thing.
Yeah.
You're asking me for stuff? Oh, you only want to be my friend so that you can take from me. That's my hackles do when somebody goes, hey, I need, give me. I immediately go, I'm being used. In Africa, that's not the case. They don't go, oh, I'm being used. They go, this person wants to be my friend. So I'm talking about like that, and even like humor. Humor is a good example. Humor in Africa is very literal.
Okay.
So I recall like I was in a place with a TV, and there was a couple of African stations, and so I think James, you might have been there for this actually. I think we talked about this. We were sitting there watching this comedy program, and by the way, humor is almost exclusively cultural. Didn't realize that either until I went to Africa, but it's almost exclusively cultural.
Except for fart jokes, I'm sure.
They don't care.
Oh.
No. Farts they're not funny.
So whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
If they are, then maybe different people than I was with.
So give us, what's their humor like?
So I was watching this TV show, and the people I were with thought it was hysterical. Two guys sitting up on screen, and they're really talking about nothing. And what they're doing while they're sitting there talking about nothing is grabbing in this giant box they have next to them different funny hats and putting them on. And every time they put on a new hat, the people with me would be like, that's the funniest crap I've ever seen. I was sitting there looking around going like, what? So it's literal humor. That's a good way to describe it. Is it's I'm trying not to demean. Because it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's not less or better. It's just
right.
It is what it is.
Just the same way they would view our humor. It's just like, oh, that's not funny.
It's not funny to them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And a big part of his language. Wordplay is a big thing. What we do in the West is we do wordplay with English. Puns. We tell a dad joke. That's my speed.
Exactly.
Dad jokes are my jam.
So things are a little alien. Humor is different. So yes, there's big differences, and I guess I missed what you were actually doing over there. What was your purpose for Africa?
I was doing, I call it microfinancing, because it's easier and people understand that a little bit better. But I went with like this back of donors who were trying to end the poverty cycle in Africa. So poverty cycle, for anybody who's not familiar, is basically somebody is a subsistence farmer. So they go out and they plant in their backyard, and then they grow their corn, and then they eat it, and then they repeat next year. They go and do it again, or forage. That's a big part as well. These giant mango trees. There's tons of food in Africa. It's incredibly fertile. No, I say Africa, it's a continent. In Zambia. Zambia is incredibly fertile. It's right next to the equator.
Yeah, most people wouldn't think of Africa as having a cornucopia of food.
It's everywhere. I mean, they do. They do. You know, Congo. If you've seen enough movies, then you do. But it's not like, you know, Egypt. There's not much food in Egypt. Mostly desert. You know, Africa's giant. It's a huge continent. So saying Africa is like saying, oh, in the United States, it rains a lot. Well, kind of. It rains a lot in Florida.
Right.
It doesn't rain much in California or Nevada. What was I talking about?
Well, I'm curious, was this before you became a recording artist?
Yes.
So what kind of impact did that have on your journey to becoming a Christian artist?
I don't know about Christian artist, but becoming an artist,
Okay,
it was instrumental. If I had not done Africa, I would have not done music, or I would have quit really quickly is a better way to say it. And I'll tell you why. Is because music as a vocation, as a means of living, is two main things. It's one, how well you create. I'm going to do the other finger instead of that one. It's one, how well you create. And then two, it is how well you can take failure. And so this thing I was trying to do in Africa was a smashing 100% through the floor failure. It absolutely tanked, and mostly because I made it tank. Didn't know what I was doing. Finances are viewed differently in Africa. Like finances are sort of a Western thing. And so, you know, most of it just got lit on fire. The things I was trying to do to help in this poverty cycle, figuratively lit on fire, not physically.
I'm imagining you waking up in the morning, all the money is in a fire, and they're just dancing and laughing.
Yeah, not quite that extreme.
Okay.
But you've got the right picture, the figurative picture. So it was the first time in my life where I had a failure, a giant failure, that I could not blame on someone else. I couldn't go, yeah, I failed at this, but, you know, I tried to play college basketball for a couple of years, and that was a big failure. And it was 100% on me, but it was easy to go, oh, in my own brain, no, it wasn't really me, it was the coach. He got fired right after I left. That guy was terrible. He screwed me up. I would have been incredible if it weren't for. And so Africa happened, and there was nobody else to blame. I couldn't go like, this person is the one who's holding the bag. I was holding the bag. So this is what I say about Africa is I went to be good for Africa. It's one of the only times God's told me to do something specifically. Only one of two times really in my life where he's told me to do something specific. And I went because I went, this is a great idea. I'm going to help change the continent. This is really going to help people a ton. And it did not. I did not help Africa at all. But Africa instrumentally helped me. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. And that being said, it was the worst year of my life. I hated it. It was awful. Every second. There were moments of joy, mostly when somebody would come and visit me. Like James or my sister came. We had some other friends that came. They came the same time as you? Yeah, I think so too. Moments of joy. Connection with the Father was really great, right? Because when you feel like you need him, which we don't usually in the West, but when you feel like you need him because you are by yourself, the commune with Jesus is really heavy, which was really good. But the lesson of learning how to fail is the reason I do music now. Because music is is directly related to how well you can hear somebody say, "You stink." What I do is I make this thing, and especially early on in my career, I make this thing. It's a song. It's an album. And then I hand it to somebody and go, "Listen to this." And internally I'm going, this is me giving myself to someone else. And then that person listens to it, and most of the time they go, meh. Right? You get way more no's than you get yes, whatever it is. I'm handing it to a radio station. You should play this. That's not very good. Handing it to a management company. Hey, you guys should do something with me. No, that's not very good. It's mostly you stink. That's mostly what you hear.
Constantly chipping away at your pride, your ego.
Yeah. You're failing. You're failing over and over again. And it's being reinforced by other people. So for me, I'm like naturally very sensitive to success failure. And I think most people are probably. I don't know. I haven't thought about that a ton, but I am very sensitive to success failure. And so learning how to be okay with a stamp of failure is what I learned in Africa. And if I did not have that, I would have quit very early in music, because that is what music is learning how to deal with failure. And I don't care who you are, all the way up the food chain of artists. That is the case. Some people just naturally are okay with it. The ones that I know that are, it's people that just don't care. And I people probably would think that I don't. Be like, oh, he probably doesn't care.
You have that look.
I know, yeah.
You look chill.
Do I? I don't know.
Yeah, you look very chill. But that blows my mind, and I feel like anybody listening to this, it's shocking, because when you think of musician and you think of, a recording artist that, does well, I mean, millions of views, and you're on YouTube, you're on Spotify, you're everywhere, you're going on tour. They think of success, and they think of how do they handle the success and all of the fame and the glory. They don't think of how are they handling failure. Like, no one is thinking about how how is Justin Bieber handling failure. No, they think of how's he handling success, and then you see that in the news of like too much success makes the person go crazy with all the paparazzi, and like Britney Spears, stuff like that. So it's just like baffling to me that you're not over here saying I had to figure out how to handle the success. No, I had to figure out how to handle failure after failure after failure, and constantly like chipping away. But then you have this like diamond at the end of it, this thing that you can be proud of, that us as listeners get to hear and they get to listen to. Yeah, and I'm not on the same scale as Bieber. Right? Bieber's a whole different thing. Okay, look.
So I think
don't try to humble yourself. No. I put you above Bieber.
Thanks, Dad. I think that handling success is incredibly difficult. I think the entire book of James, that's all they're talking about, is how to deal with success. Right? So I think that is the ultimate trial. That is not the way that I view the world, and especially when it comes to music as a vocation. And I don't know Bieber, so I don't know if that was his experience. He started really early, and he has had a ton of success. So from my perspective, I would agree with you. It'd be like, oh no, he's the other end of the spectrum. He probably doesn't deal with failure. But
I'm sure people would view you the same way if they didn't know.
Probably.
If they weren't sitting here listening to Young Married Christian.
Yeah.
Now, okay, going from failure, I'm not trying to make a complete bridge here, but how was your experience on The Voice?
Speaking of failure. Thanks a lot, Dad. Thanks a lot.
No, because I think it's cool. Like, I think it's cool that you were on a television show that if you talk to 95% of Americans and you say The Voice, they know what The Voice is.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't watch it religiously, but like we all know what The Voice is. Like, how was that?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
That actually doesn't feel like a failure. I don't know.
No, it's not. It's not.
Because there was so I won season 2. For anybody who doesn't know, you can look it up. Don't look it up. I didn't. I got kicked off really quickly.
No, I was believing you. I was like, the internet has got this all wrong. What?
Dang it! I should have just let it ride. No, it was really fun. It was like a kids camp, right? It was like a kids camp, except for there was no kids. It was just the adult coaches, right?
Okay.
They'd lock you in a hotel for like a month, and there's like 200 people in there that are all very similar. The Voice is like it's mostly like aspiring artists and people who have careers, but it's some sort of, you're at some sort of low intermediate level of your career trying to make it work, that sort of thing.
And at that point, where were you in your career?
I'd put out one really terrible record in college.
Self-titled, David Dunn?
No, this one was called Eyesore, EYE space SORE. It's really gross.
Wait, I don't even think that's on Spotify.
No, I have removed that one from everywhere.
It's like Disney's Song of the South. You don't want anyone seeing it or hearing it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so you had released that, Eyesore.
I released Eyesore, and it was it was the first thing I ever did. I did it because I had a friend who I semi-met through James, who was trying to do he was doing a recording engineering degree. In his senior project, he had to record someone. And so I was writing songs and playing them. I was in Lubbock, Texas at the time. And I called him and I was like, hey, I have some songs I've been running. You should record them for me. We should do this together. And he is actually an incredible engineer and producer. He's a guy I still work with occasionally to this day. And so he made a record that sounded 10 times better than I was as an artist at the time. But they still were the songs I was writing. And so you can only polish a turd so much.
Right. But it was like
people are like, I think that's still a turd, right? So that's how I feel about that project.
You were scratching his back, he was scratching your back. It sounds to me like an African friendship.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. Sorry. Okay, so you had that album.
So I did that one, and then I put out an actual decent record.
David Dunn, self-titled.
I think so. David Dunn EP.
EP,
What
yeah.
I think that one's called. Yeah.
You hadn't released your Christmas album yet.
No, Christmas record happened after the third project.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had some good music out there. You're going on the show.
I put out 5 songs that were actually good, and I had a bunch of sweet friends who bought it. Both of those records. That's really kind of the thing that got me started. Is I had a bunch of friends that were like, "Oh, this is so great," because they liked me. They were sweet, and so, and the Voice reached out, and I went on the show and got kicked off. The
Cool.
end.
You were there. You weren't there. The end.
I was there, and then I wasn't.
Any tips
Christina
for?
said I was attractive.
That's a win.
I said, "What's your number?" Ha ha ha. I didn't. I should have.
You thought it though.
I did think it.
There's so many men out there that are thinking things that they probably should have said. There's probably men that say things that they should have just thought. What would be your one piece of advice for any listeners that maybe want to go out for something like The Voice or American Idol or some kind of singing competition?
Yeah, have fun. Don't take it too serious. I feel like people, especially like, this is my life, and I'm gonna do this singing show, and that's how I'm gonna make it happen. Don't do it so serious. Like, it's really a good time if you allow yourself to have a good time. There was 2 kinds of people on that show, right? There was like the people who treated it like a kids camp, and then there was people that were like, this is a competition, these are my competition people, and so they go and lock themselves in their hotel room. There was a bunch of people that like popped up after. I was like, I never even saw that person. Like, who is that? Like that. So I don't. Maybe they were just introverted, but I think a lot of stress went into it that was needless because people were less interested in enjoying the experience and more interested in whatever else you would do. I don't even know.
Well, and I feel like though that's even you in the Christian music realm, because a lot of Christian artists are. I don't want to say that you're not a serious Christian artist. You're not like a Tenacious D, in the Christian world.
I'm not the Weird Al of the Christian music industry yet.
Yeah. Oh, that's coming up next, ladies and gentlemen.
Record.
Oh my gosh, I would listen to every song on
Pick
repeat.
of Predestination. That's a Tenacious D joke.
I love that. Yes. I think the tribute was actually a song about one of your songs.
Yeah. And me and Jack.
Yeah.
Black. Wrote it together.
I love that. But what I was going to say is that in your world, in the Christian music industry, like, you are kind of more laid back, more chill. And I feel like a lot of Christian artists, like, when you come to their show and you see them, it feels like a very serious experience where they have this formula to almost like manifest the Spirit, whether or not, it's happening or not. And you don't do that at your show.
No. A big portion of what I try to do is I'm actively trying to be myself, even on social media. It's a difficult thing to do, especially when in the age of branding.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is how I want to brand my stuff. I think about that occasionally, but not very often. I'm trying to be me, with what I make musically and who I am, on stage. I think that really is an issue. I don't know if it's an issue for participants, for concert goers, but it is for artists. And I think a big portion of the reason is that authenticity when it comes to Jesus is coming into question. There's sort of this wave of artists who are following this blueprint of how to do things. Right, you put out these songs that fit in this mold, and then you do these concerts that fit this way. And the concerts that fit this way, a lot of the times, it ends up being sort of like a spiritual drug dealing event, to where you go, and I have to make these people feel like God is present. And so this is the way to do that. We're going to do lights this way. We're going to have these moments where people can be intimate. We're going to try and create this experience. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like saying, oh, everybody should stop doing that. No,
because when I go and see like an Elevation or a Hillsong or a Passion, that is almost my expectation.
It is your expectation.
I'm not going.
That is what people want.
Yeah,
it is what people want. The hard part for artists is that what it ends up becoming is a fabrication. Is I'm fabricating these things to try and stir these emotions over and over again. I'm continually fabricating that the Holy Spirit is here. And sometimes he is, and sometimes he isn't. And me as the person who's standing up on stage, I'm trying to make this happen because that's how you sell tickets, or that's what people need, or that's what people want. There's tons of different motivations. And what happens with the artist is that if that's the case, if you're fabricating, a lot of times Jesus becomes less real to you. Because then you get in this zone of, I'm just fabricating. Is this real? Is Jesus even real? It's sort of a downward spiral. So I have a decent number of friends who like are pretty forefront in the Christian music industry that the Christian music industry sort of leads them to go, I don't know if this stuff is real. Like this is what I do, and so I'm going to keep doing it, or sometimes not. And I don't know what to do with that. Like that is an easy path to jump on. I'm gonna make this stuff happen. I'm gonna make these people feel, and then you do that over and over and over again, and you go, what's real? Like, what? Does the Holy Spirit actually move? Is he really, or is it just me being a spiritual drug dealer? Am I doing this, or is Jesus doing this? Well, it feels like I'm doing it because I know that this is the equation to make people feel like Jesus is present.
right.
And so if that's the equation, and I don't do the equation, and people don't show up anymore, then maybe Jesus is not here. Right? It's that's an easy place to go, and it happens way more often than you would think.
And I think that almost becomes what defines Christian music as a genre, because you look at other music genres, and it's always based on how the music sounds. You know, jazz, it sounds like jazz. Rock and roll, it sounds like rock and roll. Christian music, you have everything from David Dunn to David Crowder to Under Oath, and that's all labeled as Christian.
Yeah.
And yet very different. And I think it's because that genre of music, there is that expectancy to, you know, the audience needs to be brought into this special place. And man, if there was a way to fix that for the artist, that'd be amazing. But I don't see that ever changing, where the audience is coming in to a Jesus Culture performance and not expecting that. You know, if Jesus Culture just came out,
and I don't think there's anything wrong with expecting.
No,
and I don't think there's anything wrong with fabricating. I'm just talking about where things go easily with artists. So I'm not calling for a change. Oh, this needs to stop because this is everybody's just faking it. I don't
Right.
I don't believe that to be true. I don't believe that to be true. I just think that this is an easy place to go mentally as an artist when your job in your own mind is to fabricate. That's just I'm not like flipping a whip here to start slapping people. You need to
No,
stop being
but-
such a faker.
Yeah, no.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, and I'm not hearing that, and I don't know. Maybe the answer is like, I don't know, counselors for if you're leading people into worship on a day in and day out basis. Because I feel like those people, maybe we need to be praying for them.
Yeah.
Now, Aaron, I know that you have done collaborations, maybe not with some of the names that I mentioned, but you've done collaborations for some of your songs. You've had Aaron Cole and who was the other guy, the other rapper?
Oh, Manny Reyes.
I love collaborations. I think I grew up in the generation of like you'd hear a rap song and then the next month it's remixed and T-Pain's in there or whatever. I love just always the remix. The remix was always better than the original. Have you thought of other collaborations? Maybe not remixes, but anybody out there that you would love to collab with?
It is, yeah, tons. It is. I think it's just the nature of the Christian music industry, the business part.
Like, what is going on with this Christian music industry? Why choose that over what seemed to be like an easier route for you with your family business?
Yeah, so choosing music over that, because music was still pretty far-fetched. It's far-fetched for anybody who chooses it. The reason that I picked it over engineering was because in my mind I went, engineering is a thing I can do whenever, and I've got a little bit of heat from what I've done with music, and this is probably my only chance to give this a shot. And so I begged the Lord to tell me, honestly. I was like, God, you need to tell me. You need to give me a burning bush or a wet fleece and tell me that I'm supposed to be a musician or an engineer.
I'm guessing you didn't get both.
I didn't get anything, really. No, didn't get anything. And so it really just came down to I like them both. This is a thing that I can do probably anytime, and music is a thing that this is my only real chance. So I'm going to do this for a bit and see if it works. And even when I met James way early, I was continually setting milestones of like, if this doesn't happen in this period of time, this much momentum that I need to go, I'm still moving in the right direction, then I'm going to quit.
I love that.
And I probably did 15 of those.
Are you hitting those milestones?
Yeah, I hit them all.
That's awesome.
I mean, they were small. It wasn't like, I need to be Justin Bieber. It was always like, I need to be able to book and play this many shows. And I need to figure out how to get this many people to look at this thing I just released, not even buy it. I just need to make sure that people are seeing it. If I can make sure people are seeing it, then this tangible many, then maybe this is a thing that I can do.
Okay.
That sort of thing.
So it was just like, I'll go into music. If music doesn't work out, then you always have a backup plan. But music
I don't know if I do anymore.
Right.
I think I might be unhireable at this point. I've got a full sleeve tattoo and dreads. And I can cut the dreads, but this doesn't wash off real well. And I also need a calculator to do very simple math.
Okay.
So.
Well, music it is.
Yeah, I think music it is.
And, just like our past guest, Jaron, I feel like when I see your content, when I hear your music, it just blows my mind. And for any of our listeners who are still listening to somebody that maybe they don't know, if you haven't heard David's music, like, check it out. It's phenomenal because in the Christian world, like you were saying earlier, it does tend to follow a certain pattern. And so myself as a Christian who wants to always look for that artist that's a little different, maybe has music that you're not anticipating from a Christian artist. When I started diving into your music, it was a breath of fresh air. It was like such a relief.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and I mean, you're putting out such good content, and it just blows my mind. I'm like, this guy should have 10 times listenership or whatever. Why am I not hearing this guy on the radio more? But maybe that's more of my problem than, well, I don't know.
It's probably a bit of both of ours.
Yeah, we're both.
We'll take equal responsibility.
Maybe this podcast episode will be the thing that just resurrects I don't know. Your career's not dead. It doesn't need to be resurrected.
Resurrect my career. Thanks, Steve-O. Bring you from the ashes, from the pits of Gehenna, back into Jerusalem.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about you in the music world, but who is David Dunn off of the song, off of the stage, outside of the music world?
I talked about this a tiny bit earlier, but I'm actively putting effort into trying to be the same. A big part of this world is branding.
Mm-hmm.
It's what does my brand tell people? And probably to the detriment of my career, I have actively tried to not do that. I'm not trying to brand. I still do to a certain extent. You can't get away from that. But a big part of my brand is this is me. This is how I am. And
Not the Greatest Showman song.
Oh,
This is me.
got it. I thought you were saying you're not the greatest showman. And I was about to tell you were number one. That's a middle finger joke. Yeah. So, who is David Dunn off of social media and music? I think I'm the same, but I'm a bad person to ask. Because I'm trying to be me, and I'm not sure how successful I am at it. If you ask my team, like my manager or label booking agents, they would be able to answer more correctly than I can.
Okay.
What you got, James?
From my perspective, so you are two very different. You are extremely intelligent and very thoughtful.
And my music is not extremely intelligent.
I don't see a lot of that on your social media persona. I see a lot of fun, goofy Dave.
He's saying you look like an idiot on social media.
Which is also you. So there's my experience of you off camera is funny, goofy, making jokes, but also very, very thoughtful and very you have very strong points of view on a lot of topics that matter.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't necessarily see that a lot.
Yeah, and I think a big portion of the reason that is, if I was gonna weigh in here, I think a big portion of the reason that is why I don't necessarily do it on social media is because you also won't hear me monologuing, which is what social media is. When I have conversations about things that are intellectual or semi-intellectual, it's always because there's another individual involved. So I'm not a pastor, not a preacher. I'm terrible at it. I can't think my way through anything when I'm monologuing. When I'm talking to somebody, that ends up happening. And social media is a monologue platform, is what I would say. That would be my I don't know if it's defense, but that's I would go. I think that's probably why. Is I also don't monologue, and social media is monologue.
That's why you gotta start a podcast, bro.
Yeah, I'm about to start. I tried to start one for a hot minute. I did one episode and then gave up.
I think it would allow. I really do think it would allow you to showcase another side of your.
What I was gonna do is get a bunch of my music friends and bring them in, and then we'd talk about whatever, and then we'd play one of their songs together. And Mark Schultz came in, and then it was 6 months of me being like, "Hey, buddy, you coming over tonight to do the thing?" And then the dude who's coming over would be like, "Ooh, can't come." Typical musician fashion. And then I was like, "All right, this is not gonna happen."
Man,
So I'm glad we're doing it here. This is great.
Yeah, now the non-flaky ones, we can just have them come here, and we'll make it happen. And we'll just always have you on deck to come in and do a music collab with them.
Now we're talking.
And then we'll get the album going. Circle of Life. Yeah, that would be pretty incredible.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I knew that you were a very intelligent dude when, every 20th word you would say while we were hanging out, you probably thought what's this guy doing on his phone all the time? I was looking up the words you were saying. I was like, this guy.
I don't feel like I have that crazy of a vocabulary.
Well, maybe you were
Maybe I
just
do.
making up the sounds you were saying.
Maybe
Like
I was just trying to
came
be extra impressive.
Yeah, maybe you're just reading signs that you saw, and I was like, wow, where'd that word come from? Or maybe you're speaking African, and I was like, oh.
Totally.
Don't know
Could
that.
have been.
Okay, let's go into somebody who I think...
Side note, African is not a language.
Swahili?
Swahili is a language. They
Yeah.
speak mostly Bemba.
Bemba?
Bemba in Zambia.
That makes me think of the bread, bimbo.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. You were talking about how... and I get it, like, asking you the question, who are you? It's hard to define yourself. It's probably easier to ask the people closest to you. I would say one of those people being Leen, your wife.
That's my wife, yeah.
So if she was here, do you think that she could speak on that?
I think she could.
Okay, let's bring her in right now. Here we go. Leen.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
There she is.
Here she is.
She looks just like James. Don't
Wow.
do that.
Flattery.
That's too much dancing.
Gosh, what just happened there? We cannot take James in public to dance.
Provocateur. James the provocateur.
Was Leen in your life when you released the song Not Soon?
No, she was not.
Where was Leen when that song was being written?
I was dating a girl.
What?
I was dating a girl.
What does your girlfriend think of this song?
I don't think I've ever had a girlfriend that was real thrilled about it.
No.
So Not Soon is basically a song, for people who haven't heard it. It's basically a song of me declaring that getting married is a thing that sounds like a good deal, but I'm probably not going to do it anytime in the near future. A big portion of the reason is because I got 5 brothers and sisters, and all of them got married pretty young and started pumping out children very fast. And so my parents were very nicely pushy, especially when I was younger, about like, it's time to do it. And so I think a part of that song was Christian society, right? A big portion of Christian society is, you graduate from college and then you get married, or get married as fast as you can. You should get married real quick.
So was it a rebellion against that stigma, or was it a rebellion against, you see all these kids and you see the havoc and the chaos they're creating, and you're like, ooh?
It was less that, because I think at that point in my life, I had less friends who had got married early with marriages that failed, right? I do have songs about that, but this is not one of them. This was like early me. All of my friends are getting married, and me going, what? Right? I'm like, why? That's really fast, and now this is your life forever. So, what was your initial question? Sorry, I was just explaining the song, and I lost my ADD. Again, here we are.
I was just wondering where Leen was in that song, but it sounds like she was probably off living her own life.
I'll connect it to Leen.
Had you known Leen at that point?
No. That was way before my wife.
Okay.
I will say this, is me and Leen dated for a really long time.
Okay.
For the same probably fundamental reason that I wrote the song. And the fundamental reason I wrote the song is that I have a natural adversity to accepting responsibility. For most of my life, I have gone way out of my way to make sure that I am not solely responsible for stuff. And I know that sounds weird because we talked about Africa and a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah.
Lord drugged me to Africa kind of because why I was being drugged is for the same reasons, because I'm adverse to responsibility.
Were you like kicking and screaming on the plane going over there?
Basically.
And then you got there, you're like, all right, I'm here.
And then no, I kicked and screamed the whole time I was there too.
Wow, interesting.
Not really. I'm being melodramatic here.
Yeah, for sure.
But we dated for a really long time. For the same reason, is that like I was in the zone of like, this is great. Like, this is fun. This is awesome. I'm enjoying this. I like my own space. I have my own toothbrush. You got your own toothbrush. We like, when it's convenient, we'll hang out, which is all the time. But why would we go to the next place and this is gone and there's a new thing, and the new thing requires me to like pay for your stuff and you pay for mine, and we're going to mix all the, like, there's all of these question marks of now we're making decisions on behalf of each other. Well, that sounds awful. I don't want somebody to make a decision on behalf of me. I want to make my own decisions.
Right.
So, it's same ballpark as the song is why me and my wife dated for 5 years, 4.5 before we got married. By the way, we got married and engaged and married in like 2 months after 4.5 years.
Oh, so it was like engagement straight into marriage. And I got to know, was the hashtag for the engagement lean with it, rock with it? When you put the rock on lean?
No.
Or was it done and done?
This is PG-13, so you might have to edit this out. But
Let's go.
In my phone, my wife's name is now. This is too much, but I'm going to tell you.
No, we want to know this.
Okay, her name is Leen, the girl who's been done. D-U-N-N. That's for free.
I'm glad it's that and not a lean piece of meat.
I might need to change it.
I am so sorry, Leen. Oh my gosh, no, don't change it.
No, but it was quick. That's actually a fun story. Would you like to hear it?
Wait, how you guys met?
No, how we got married.
Oh, how you got married? Yeah.
So it's 4.5 years in. 4, actually, like 4. It's a change. And we're sitting on the back porch of my house. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning, and she'd come over, and we're sitting on the back porch. And in the course of us talking, she sort of goes, "Hey, is this going anywhere?" And I said, "Yeah, we're gonna get married someday." And she goes, "Oh, like when? I need to have some sort of time scale." And I was like, "Okay." So I opened up my phone. I looked at my calendar, and the only real hole I had for more than like 2 weeks was in like 2 months.
Because of touring?
Because of touring. And so I was like, well, what if we got married in like 2 months? And she's like, yeah, that works. And I go, well, do you know when you would get married? She's from Ireland. She goes, oh, I want to get married back in Ireland. And I was like, okay.
In Ireland?
We got married in Northern Ireland.
That's amazing.
And then she goes, it is. I've got a video, actually. I'll let you see it. You guys won't see it, but I'll let you see it.
Okay, cool.
It's really great.
It's awesome. The listeners are getting really jealous, and I love it.
Sorry, suckers. I'll just hold my phone up, and you can
take that.
See it. And she's like, okay. And then we sat there for about 10 seconds, and I go, well, I guess we're engaged. And she goes, yeah. And I go, do you want a ring? Or? And she goes, yeah, I want a ring. And I was like, well, do you know a kind or anything? Like, do you know anything? And she goes, yeah, I want this one. And
wait, she had it on her phone ready.
Yeah.
It was her is it her background?
No, she like pulled it up.
Oh,
she
okay.
like typed it in, pulled it up. I want this one. And I was like, all right.
Like this poor girl has it on her background of her phone.
Well, then you like, all right, here, I'll just hand you my credit card and you can just buy it. And so she's like, all right. So she buys it. And then we sit there for a couple minutes more. Yeah, wait for it.
I did it all wrong.
It gets worse or better, depending on your perspective.
Okay, so she goes out, buys the ring.
She bought it on the internet. Like, you don't have to buy it. She like knew a ring size, so she literally put it in. It's going to come in like 4 weeks or something like that.
Okay, yeah, because going in person, that's kind of humiliating. Hey, I'm here to buy my engagement ring.
Yeah. Now, internet. She doesn't have the ring yet, but she has ordered it. And then we sit there for a couple more minutes, and I go, well, I gotta call my mom. And so I call my mom, and then I tell her, and she gets my older sister on the phone. I've got 5 siblings. So older sister and mom are on the phone. And they're like, tell us the story. We want to hear the story. How did you do it? And I was like, well, I was sitting on the back porch, and it just came up in conversation, and we picked a date. And they go, what? What do you mean? You didn't make it like a special thing? And I was like, not really. Like, that's not really what we do. And they were like, you have to. She would. Like, you don't want to tell that story for the rest of your life. And I was like, no, that's a fine story for me to tell for the rest of my life.
And here you are telling it.
Yeah. And so they guilt trip me into, guilt trip, that's too much. They talk me into making a thing of it. So I was like, all right. So I went to Walmart.
You should have just stuck with your original plan.
To make it romantic, I went to Walmart. And yeah, exactly. And I bought like a $25 giant fake diamond old man ring. Had like 50 diamonds on it. And I bought that. And I have a buddy who's a videographer. It's Nashville, tons of them. And I was like, hey, here's what I think we're going to do. We're going to go out to this abandoned airfield, which is kind of connected to a park that we always went to. And I want you to fly this ring in on the drone. And that's how we're going to get her.
That's cool.
And so I tell Leen, I'm like, a couple days later, I'm like, hey, Ben, my friend Ben, needs some like B-roll stock footage to sell to people for commercials. And he needs you and me to like go out and ride on a skateboard around this airfield. And she's like, no, I'm not doing it. I was like, why not? And she goes, oh, because I don't want to do it. And like 15 minutes later, I'm like, I promise you'll enjoy it. I'll give you $100 if you hate it. And she's like, $100? All right.
You're trying to twist her arm because
And she's also
it's
making
a
a deal.
setup.
She knows that even if she enjoys it, she'd just be like, that was stupid. And I have to give her $100. So we go to the airfield, and we're like riding around on this skateboard, and he's flying the drone all over the place. And there's a video of that too. It's a really great video. So of him filming with the drone, and then I like secondarily asked her to marry me in like a proper rom-com sort of way. That's a good video.
That's precious.
So that's how we fake got engaged after we unromantically got engaged on my back porch.
Okay. I feel like you gave some women some bad ideas to just anything their husband or fiance or boyfriend wants them to do. They just say, if you give me $100, if I don't like it, I'll do it. And then they just always say, I didn't like that.
Listen.
Great advice from David Dunn.
I am an enabler. So if you are listening and you need to be enabled, you're welcome.
Okay, so to kind of get on your vocabulary level, I'm going to use the word courtship. What did you feel like you did well in your courtship with Leen? And what do you feel like maybe you should have done a little differently? Looking back.
It's complicated because people are different.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with me and my wife, we tend to, everything is sort of light, and every opportunity is an opportunity to have a good time. And so I think until we were forced, and this is very much, if anybody visits an Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 7, and my wife is a 2.
Same.
Your wife's a 2? Or your fiance?
I don't have a wife.
Fiance.
Fiance's a 3, but I'm a 7.
She's a 3. 3 and a 7.
3 and a 7.
She's the CEO, man.
We make a perfect 10.
You're ready to have kids. Dad joking. What was I talking about? Oh, what we did as a dating couple.
Yeah.
I think the main thing that I'd probably do more of is be intentional about working through each other's baggage. Because dating is this. All the stuff you see on TV is BS. Especially the garbage TV shows. The Bachelor. The Bachelor is the worst thing to happen to how people view relationships ever. That being said, delightful to watch.
Hot garbage.
It is. I love garbage TV. And the whole time I'm watching, I'm going, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. All right, we're going to watch one more. That is how I watch garbage TV. But it is absolute crap, and it's portraying love in the most negative way ever.
Oh, yeah.
And so what I would say is this, is that dating is, it's coming to baggage.
Not synonyms.
Dating should be, anyone who's dating, it should be an evaluation process for the both of you to figure out what your other person's baggage is and deciding whether or not you're willing to carry it for the rest of your life.
That's deep.
That's all dating should be. You and me are dating, Devo. First off, it's weird. But second off, we decide what each other's baggage is. And then we decide if we're willing to carry it for the rest of our lives.
So what does a conversation like that not necessarily look like, but like how do you jump into that with your significant other? I mean, are you sitting down knees to knees
No.
looking into each other's eyes?
I mean, sometimes.
hey, what's your
Sometimes.
baggage?
Yeah. The hard thing about baggage is that usually people don't realize what their baggage is.
Oh, 100%. And and I feel like if you call them out on it, hey, babe, here's some of your baggage, they don't like that.
No. With us, I think a big portion of it was me making sure that my wife was looking at my baggage. I think that was a piece of it. Is I wish that I would have done more to let my wife see my baggage. Which, it's a whole lot easier to evaluate other people than yourselves.
Yeah. What kind of baggage are we talking here?
I mean, a big portion of it is that I am incredibly self-centered. Right? I mean, you can tell that from most of the things I've been talking about today. I very highly prize my own fill in the blank.
Yeah, this whole interview is about you.
Exactly the way God intended. So for my wife,
Can I ask you,
Hit me.
being self-centered, not just like putting that label on you or anything, but like I also struggle with that in some ways. Is there ever a time when you're in a room and if you feel like somebody else is maybe more talented than you, maybe funnier than you, and you just like have jealousy towards that person and it almost shuts you down?
No, not really.
You're okay with sharing the spotlight?
Yeah. A big part of the way that I'm self-centered, and I think it's probably, if we're talking about like socially, especially, a big part of the reason that the way that I am self-centered is I enjoy things more when everyone is doing them. So a big part of what I'm trying to do is go, let's all do this, and I'm going to shepherd it and be at the head if I need to. But if James is popping, I have no problem being like, yes. So it's because that's what I want, right? That's what I enjoy the most.
You want people to be participators.
I don't like to monologue. I don't want people to listen to me talk. I don't like to talk for no reason. What I want to do is enjoy everything, and the way that I enjoy things the most is if everybody's popping off and having a good time.
If you're having people over to a barbecue and you've got like games set up, cornhole, all kinds of things, and there's like people that aren't participating in like the activities you've set up, does that bother you?
No, not at all.
You're cool with them
I'm cool with them doing it, but on my radar, they don't exist. I know that's so harsh, but they don't exist on my radar.
Wow.
If they're not choosing to participate, I forget that they're there. So I'm not trying to make people participate. I'm trying to negotiate the participators so that we can have the best time doing whatever it is together.
Makes sense.
Were you about to get into Leen's baggage?
I want to talk about this real quick first because you brought something up.
Yeah.
This is a tangent. This is a theory I'm working on that I believe to be true. I think, controversial, here it comes.
Oh, I like it.
I think that humans do not have the capacity to do anything but be selfish. We can do nothing but be selfish. Let me explain before you freak out. We can either do things selfishly our own way, or we can do selfishly things God's way. And that's all we get. The entire Bible is a giant book of reasons why we should choose God over us. Now, the best example to give to this is the parable of the servant at the table. If you want to be at the head seat in the table, what should you do? According to the Bible, you should serve people.
Right.
If you want to be first, put yourself last.
100%.
And it's taken for granted that everybody wants to be first. And I think that's the entire book of the Bible. It's going, you can either do things your own way, selfishly, because you think it's best for you, or you can do you can do things selfishly God's way because it's best for you. Everyone does what's in their best interest. A heroin addict, as he's putting the needle in his arm, doesn't go, this is the worst. I don't know why I'm doing this. In the moment, he has convinced himself, this is the best thing for me right now. And regret, remorse, all that can come later. But in the moment that I do it, I have convinced myself, this is the best thing for me. And that is what destruction looks like. Destruction looks like doing your own thing your way. Doing God's thing for you is the only other way to function. And now the rebuttal is, I do things because I love God. And I reject that, only because love is the most ambiguous term in the human language. All you got to do is watch The Bachelor to realize that love no longer has meaning. It is a thing that everybody says and thinks they understand, and no one is saying the same thing. As a motivating factor, I'm still a little foggy on this of whether or not this is true or not. So this is going to be live forever, so I'll probably regret this at some point. But love is a motivating factor I don't currently believe to exist. Love is a thing that happens once you make a choice. You love because you are. You don't love because you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Love is a choice and an action. It's not a motivator. It is something that happens after you make the decision. So you can either choose to do things God's way, which leads to life. You can choose to serve other people because it's best for you, even when it doesn't feel like it, which it rarely ever does when you serve people. In my experience, some people love it. My wife loves it. But serving people feels, why would I do that? I want to sit at the front of the table. Well, sit at the bottom. Why would I sit at the bottom? I want to sit at the front because that's God's way. So do you believe that God, your Father, actually has your best interest in mind, that he wants the best for you or not? If you believe that he does, then serving other people is best for you, and that's why you should do it. It's great for other people. Yes, you'll get fulfillment from it. Yes, you may never see why it's the best thing, but do you trust that it is? It's your way or God's way. You can do your way selfish, or you can do God's way selfish, and those are the only two options. I'm still working on that a little bit. I'm not 100% sure that I am all on board with it, but I think I believe it to be true.
No, I mean, that brings up so many questions. And I know that, like, for me personally in my life, I've had a lot of non-believers come to me and say, Debo, you're just a Christian because you know that equals heaven, and that makes you way worse of a person than any of us that don't believe, because you're literally trying to get the golden ticket, the Willy Wonka ticket, the pass into heaven. And I mean, I've wrestled with all that stuff, and I've come to a conclusion where I'm good. I'm fine. I mean, because the whole morality thing, like, if you take away heaven as the reward, then you take God out of the equation, and then you can't really have morality without God anyway. So it's like,
I also don't believe that heaven is the reward.
right.
I believe the reward is life.
Are we about to?
And that includes heaven.
Yeah, your song "Heaven" or "Kingdom" is
Kingdom.
literally about that.
Yeah, that is exactly right. Is that life is found when you walk with Jesus, and you're going to do that a lot more in heaven. But this is the only chance you get to do it by faith. You get this 80-year period to walk with Jesus by faith and find life here and now. Jesus doesn't talk about heaven a ton. He does talk about it, but mostly when he speaks of the kingdom of heaven, he's speaking about the earth.
Yeah.
He mostly talks about what's going to happen while you're here, not the hereafter. Now, he does talk about the hereafter, and I think it's important, but we make it a lot more important than Jesus did because everybody's concerned about what happens to us when we die. Jesus was concerned about that too, but he was mostly concerned with how we live. And I mean that in the physical term and in the metaphysical term. Finding life and not choosing death. I've got a tattooed giant on my hip. You've seen that one, haven't you? It's my favorite verse in the Bible, Deuteronomy 30:19. Look it up. That is the Bible in whole, in my opinion, is that verse.
Okay. Wow, I think we started talking about your...
Sorry, that was a tangent. I think I just went off on it was a soapbox.
No, it's fine. I mean, that's definitely stuff that, I want to dive into, but all of this surprises me about you because, like, you're just so, like, kind of an independent guy going through life, not really needing this, female attention.
I started doing music because I was in a youth event and I had a bunch of girlfriends in youth group, and some random dude got up on stage and started playing the guitar, and I was like, this is all right. And I looked around at all my female friends, and they were all going. And that's when I knew the Lord was calling me to do music.
It's like girl's perspective, slow-mo strums. Your perspective, things are normal speed, and you're so confused. And then you're like,
this is it.
I
want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Let them drool over me.
I wonder how many guitarists, male guitarists, are guitarists for that reason.
I think it's 100%. And if it's anything less, then I think we have some liars.
Yeah, so true. But like my thought when I heard your song Second Grade, which personally might be my favorite song of yours, number one, as a Christian artist, you putting that on your record that has like nothing to do with God, loved that, because I don't think Christian artists do that enough. Number two,
It does.
well,
I disagree with that, but
okay.
but not specifically. Keep
not-
going. Keep
yeah,
going.
yeah,
Keep going.
Not as over the top as like using the same. I don't know. Pastor Furtick was talking about like using the same 30 words for every Christian song, and it was like none of those words were those 30 words. You know.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. Second reason being, you literally go through your girlfriend in second grade. I literally had my girlfriend in second grade pop up in my head. Your girlfriend when you're a teenager, my high school girlfriend pops up in my head. And then you're talking about your girlfriend when you're in your 30s. I literally can relate to that because that's where I am right now, engaged. And I'm going through this, and I'm also reading Wild at Heart. And when he talks about the whole, like, you're constantly, man is constantly going after that golden hair beauty, and doing whatever for it. And like, to me, one of the biggest truths in that book was when he talked about how Eve fell into temptation from the devil, but man fell into temptation from woman. And when you say, you know, if there's any man out there who's playing guitar and it's not because of a woman, it's a lie, like, it makes so much sense. Like, we're all, because of Adam, like, we have that connection to woman where it's like, we're always going to fall.
Yeah.
But, and you know, I don't know. But you and Leen seem very happy. I don't feel like she's pulling you down in any way.
No, I don't. I think she's absolutely lifting me up. That is not to say that it has not been really terrible at times.
Yeah. What's the hardest part so far?
Here's the thing: is we got married and then accidentally got pregnant immediately. Apparently, I am very potent. It's actually wild that we got pregnant once, much less multiple times. And marriage is, especially for someone like me, it is a really intensive uphill climb to learn how to serve when somebody else is your responsibility. And I say Leen's my responsibility, and I was hers, right? I think marriage is that way. And so learning how to, roommates is easy, right? You do roommates and you're doing your own thing and you're sharing a few things, but it's passive. Everybody's sort of on the same page. It's not always easy, but it's easier. But marriage, it's now, I said this a little bit earlier, it's now we're making decisions on behalf of each other. Our lives are now intertwined. And that is painful. I think it's a little less painful if you don't already have your life the way you have it, right? If you get married early. How old were you when you got married? 27. That's pretty old too, still. Not pretty old, but it's older. If you get married when you're 22 or 21, like my little brother did, you don't do life anyway. You've done college and you've done high school, and then now you're doing life another place. So it's a little bit less of adjustment. But for a 30-something to get married, you very much have your thing the way that you have your thing.
Right.
And you make decisions the way you make decisions. And then you introduce somebody else who also has that. And now you have to do it together. And there's this rub. And it wasn't that big of a deal when we got married. But then we had a kid. And that's like 10x. Because all of those things are highlighted in, you know, the most loud, annoying highlighter in the world. And they're full frontal, just straight in your face.
And this is Rhodes.
That was Rhodes, yeah, my firstborn.
And that was your first, you got her pregnant and Rhodes was the first baby.
Rhodes' first baby, yeah.
Okay.
Rhodes first. Kind of, yeah.
Wait, what do you mean kind of?
Oh, well, we actually got pregnant on the wedding night and on accident. And and my wife miscarried.
Oh.
So that's not super public, but
Sorry to bring that up.
miscarried, and then Rhodes was a couple months later. Same sort of story. Not the miscarry part, but what were we talking about? I forgot, and I was derailed.
No, you're fine. Does that miscarriage how much does that weigh on you and Leen?
Less so on me. And Leen, I think it was a lot heavier for Leen. Because to me, I'm not carrying a child. It didn't feel real to me. To be frank with you, even Rhodes didn't feel real until he came out. And when I'm holding him, I went, holy crap, right? There's a difference. And then really heavy paternal instincts didn't kick in for me until 4 or 5 months, probably, when he stopped just being a sack of flesh that pooped and cried and eats, right? When he realized that he existed and so did I, it was like a light switch. I was pretty miserable up until then.
Which I feel like is such a good analogy for our relationship with God. And the moment that we finally realize that he is there, I'm sure he probably has that same feeling, like, because you're probably like joy, like, oh my gosh, like my son recognizes me and he sees me.
Yeah, it was more like it was pretty prolonged misery. It was pretty prolonged misery where I was going, I've ruined my life. My life is over. This is my new existence and I hate it.
Does it kind of feel like 4 months of just having a Furby with less hair?
Yeah, it's just all freedom gone. That's the biggest thing. It's not like technically what you do with a kid. Technically what you do with a kid is whatever. You just don't sleep that much. You clean the diapers. But my life no longer belonged to me. And it already didn't because my wife had it. But that was like on a tiny scale. And then a kid comes along. And now my entire world now revolves around this thing. And I'm resentful of its existence. This is too much. I'm getting too much. But this is absolutely how I was. I'm resentful of this thing's existence. And then the moment he became a cognizant human being to where he realized he existed is when I went, oh, this is totally worth it. This is completely worth it. Oh, I see why people keep doing this. I see why people keep doing this. So does God do that? I've never thought about that. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like your advertisements went from cruise lining with Leen to just Disney Cruise Line with the kids. It's probably...
I don't think I get that analogy. Maybe it's an Orlando thing.
So now that you guys are married, what's been the toughest aspect now since you've become married? Has it been the kids or is it something different?
Yes. To both of those. There is no untangling. It's all one jarbled mess when you get married. So is it the kids? Yes. And it's other things. And all of those things are lumped together and they become issues and problems because people have issues and problems. Me and Leen have issues and problems. The main thing that from my perspective, I'd love to know what my wife said about this. She'd probably get mad with half of the things I'm saying.
Wait, did you say what she said about this? Like this is the newlywed game? Like she was here?
If she was here listening, I bet she would be like, it was great. That's usually what she does.
I love
your
voice.
Yeah, it was great. It wasn't great. The main thing for me, and this is another little departure, but the main thing for me that was difficult was I am highly sensitive to power plays. We talked about this yesterday a tiny bit. Highly sensitive. It's the only thing on this planet that makes me see red. Is someone asserting authority over me that I have not conceded authority to. So,
not just an authority issue, it's when it's not conceded to.
It's both, right? I've conceded authority to policemen, and I'm still incredibly nervous every time I'm around a policeman. Every time. I can't be driving and not get nervous. I can't walk up next to one. And it's not because I think they're bad people. It's because I'm aware that this person can ruin my life if they're having a bad day. This person has the power to do anything to me, and I can't do anything about it. Not that they're going to do it, but I'm aware that power structure exists, and so they make me uncomfortable. So it's all authorities. I've had an authority problem since I was tiny. You can ask my parents. But with my wife, that became a really big deal for a section of time in our marriage. And it's way more complicated than I'm about to make it. But there was inner workings of who's the boss. And I want to not play that game adamantly. My entire life, I'm a 7, right? Enneagram again game. I flee conflict. I 100% flee it if it starts to pop up. Somebody's playing power games. I'm just not going to be around that person. That's my go-to. But if we're going to play power games, if I have to play, then I'm going to frickin' win them. If I'm going to play, I'm going to win. I'm not going to play unless I'm going to win. I'm going to go for the jugular every time. And so I can't run from my wife. And so we start kind of going the power game route, and I exacerbated this terrible cycle of cats and dogs at each other's throats of who gets to decide. And what I want and what my wife wanted was for us to decide, which is not a power game. I want us to decide and to agree while making concessions for each other. Like that's the way the Lord made us to function without power games.
Right.
Or power plays is another way to say. We're going to make concessions and serve each other. Power games are the opposite of serving. Power games are, I'm more important than you, and so you will for me. That's what power games are.
It's all about winning.
It's all about winning. It is all about winning and ego.
Yeah, sounds like politics, honestly.
We
won't jump into that.
But yes.
Was there anything going through Rhodes and Rocket and then going through this power struggle? Like, was there ever a time where you felt like this isn't going to work?
No.
No?
No.
It never came to that point?
No, not even close. The breaking points for me were like semi-depression. I hate my life. It never has popped into my brain that this is not going to be the thing.
Divorce was never an option.
No, I was just this is my new existence was the low points. Divorce is not no. There's no chance. Wasn't ever going to do that. Especially with the kid involved. I don't even know. No. Like it's never entered my mind that was going to happen. That's never been a thing.
The politics thing, the winning and losing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so going back to what you said about politics, and I know I skipped over it, but it seems like there was something there.
Yeah.
Do you have
I think we
a
can
take on that?
We can almost go back to the internet conversation we had earlier.
Okay.
I think the two are related. When it comes to politics, I think that is like more of a shining example of how people behave on the internet. It's the best example. Is that you click on a political post, really almost anything, and you look at the comment section, nobody's concerned about finding truth. Nobody's concerned about resolving an issue. Nobody cares.
Nope.
All people are interested in is winning or losing at the expense of anything that's there. They don't even really know if they're right or not. They just want to be on the right side.
Yeah.
And politics is that to the extreme, right? We saw on the internet and in politicians that the only thing they're interested in, it's not interested in helping people and making the best form of government and doing the best thing with finances. They're interested in making the spin happen and then winning, whatever that is, winning the next election, winning this argument, winning the PR battle, winning the redefinition of a word. Winning and losing is all anybody wants to do anymore. Which is that a power game? I don't know.
There is some.
Yeah, probably. But it is at the detriment of everyone. When you just stop being concerned with winning and losing and things that aren't a win-lose. There is no win-lose. There is truth and then there is not. There is help and then there is hurt. And then there is a giant chasm of in between those two things. And so what I want to have happen is for us all to start, if politicians would do this, I think it would be incredibly helpful. If they would just start by going, we want the best. We want things to happen for people the best way. Let's talk about healthcare. We want healthcare to be the best it can be. Let's all start there. We want it to be the best we can be. We want to help. And then start their arguing. But they don't actually care about that. They don't care about healthcare being the best it can be. What they care about is winning. I want to win. I don't want to lose, and I'll do anything I can to win. I don't care whether or not people actually have good healthcare. And that's exactly how humans are on the internet. I don't know about in real life because I try not to do huge political conversations IRL.
Same.
But on the internet, that is how they are as well. They don't care about the issue. They just want to make sure they're on the right side, make sure they're on the right team, make sure they have the viewpoint that is most correct. And the internet is also a place where social consequences don't happen. This is what the world looks like without consequences, is the internet. It is the nastiest place on the planet because people can hide behind their keyboards and see whatever they want and then go, not me.
Well,
You don't have to look somebody in the eye and tell them the worst thing that they've ever heard in their life. That's a really hard thing you kind of have to be a terrible person to be able to do that. But behind a keyboard, no problem.
I feel like 2020, though, for the first time I did see consequences on the internet because people are blocking each other, people are unfriending each other, and it was like...
Those are internet consequences.
Well, I mean, I think...
It's not the real world, man.
But I saw it go into the workspace where people literally wouldn't have conversations.
Oh, it leaks over. It leaks over.
Which is like, is it worth it? But you said like the term team, like we got to be on the right team. And I wonder if like maybe it's because it's bipartisan and it seems very much like a sport. Oh, I'm Patriots fan, I'm Colts fan, and I'm wearing this jersey, you're wearing that jersey, and that. And I wonder if it just to Americans feels like another sport. Like, all right, every 4 years we get another Olympics.
Yeah, kind of. Like I don't think most people have thought through enough to go, this is another sport, or even realize what's happening. I don't think people are intentionally doing this. I think it's natural to people to go win, lose, and they've been prodded to be here, and so people are prodded to be win, lose by whomever. Media is a good one. The more win, lose we have at media, the more money they make, the more clicks they have. Right?
Yeah.
Is that we've been prodded into win, lose, and it's to the detriment of everyone in the United States.
For sure. And I feel like that is there is so much hate going on in that world. And that's why I don't even like to delve into that much on this show because I just like it gives me the not a good feel. So what, the willies? Yeah. So like I want to get out of that very quickly and get into like something that feels like love. I want to try something with you. I don't know how on board you are with it. We have this camera here. It's looking right at you. I would like for you to look right into it. And I want to give you as much time as you need.
Okay.
And for our listeners that are females, maybe this is their chance to hear, hey, this is how my man should feel about me. And for our guys, maybe they can hear, this is how I should feel about my woman, or this is how I should talk to her. I want you to act like this camera is Leen, and I want you to just let your heart flood out. You had no idea this was coming.
No idea. Also, what I would do with my wife is look her in the eye like this, and then I would say something like this. You stunk up the bathroom, my sweetheart. How could you do such a thing? That would be the extent of my expression of love. My wife is actually a words person. So usually what I say to my wife is, you are an incredible mother, and you are doing an incredible job with our kids and with our house. And I am super grateful and thankful for what you're doing. That made me so uncomfortable. It's the most uncomfortable I've ever been in an interview at this moment. My armpits are sweating. It makes me uncomfortable to say it to my wife.
I noticed, like, this is not your wife. This is a camera, and
I couldn't do it.
You were glancing at James. You were glancing at me.
That's because I was uncomfortable. My eyes a little stingy.
Why is that? Why? Because I get it too. Like, I can say great things about my fiance in any way except for to her face. That's hard. I mean, I can do it, but man, like you said, sweaty pits, and you just get clammy, and you're like, why is that so uncomfortable for us to just sit down and? I mean, because we feel it.
It's uncomfortable for me to do it across the board. To my wife, to not. To my wife, it's a little more uncomfortable. I think because I don't value words as much.
She does.
My wife is she's a word valuer.
Words of affirmation.
There it is. Words of affirmation.
Yeah. Love languages. That's
a big portion of her love language. And so I make an effort to do it. But in the same breath, I internally roll my eyes because words are wind. What movie is that?
Never
Gladiator? Words are wind.
seen it. I have seen Gladiator. Great movie.
Words are wind. No, it's not Gladiator. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, it's just always so interesting that I feel like any couple I talk to, your love language is one thing, her love language is something totally different.
Oh, yeah.
You're really good at showing the way you like to be loved. She's really good at everything because she's a woman. And then it just makes us as men look bad.
Yeah. We're not good at words in general.
No.
But there are some guys. This one. James is a huge words guy.
Yeah, he's very good with words.
It actually, your wife is not? James actually taught me a lot about the value of words. Not because he was saying them to me, because I always thought it was weird when he said it to me, but watching its effect when he talked to other people and said things that were wildly encouraging that I felt like were really weird. He'd say them and I'd be like, oh, shut up. And then I'd watch other people respond to be like, holy crap, that was a whole thing. It's the main. If somebody asked me to describe you, that is mostly what I would talk about. Is your ability to prop people up with your words. Pretty astounding. I am not great at that.
But yet, you have to be great at that because you're a lyricist. You literally put words into music that takes people into a place of like, oh wow, I relate to that.
Yeah.
Or that's good. Like,
but I'm not being sentimental, and I'm not attempting to do anything to anyone. I'm mostly talking about myself. I'm really good at talking about myself. Like that is my music. I go, here's what I've learned about myself and God and myself and other people. That is what I do with my music. Is I relay my life and the things I'm learning on a platform of artistic creativity.
so in one word, for those that haven't checked out all of David Dunn's albums, you would sum up all your music as just selfishness.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I should name the next record that.
No.
Selfish.
No.
Shellfish. People will be allergic.
No. If that's what your music is about, I dig it. I'm loving it. Maybe I just resonate with that. I don't know. So I want to take one of your lyrics. It was from one of your songs called Sing Loud. I'm going to quote it. It says, "There's a world full of so many voices that have never been heard." Who exactly are those voices? Who are you talking about?
Oh, I think what I was trying to say when I was writing that song, I mentioned this a minute ago in passing, is the baggage conversation. We'll go back to there. Is I think that there is an internal voice that is almost unknown to the user, that is speaking about itself. That's the worst explanation I've ever done in my life. It is people being true and honest about their own selves in a naked, blatant, open way. And if they are able to do that, if you are able to see reality of yourself, which is a very difficult thing to do, but if you are able to see the reality of yourself, then that is the first step to wisdom.
Know thyself.
Know thyself. That is it's hardest in the world. We are master deceivers. Self-deceivers. People would much rather live as the avatar on the internet than who they are in real life. Why? Because they would rather be the avatar on the internet. But that's not who they are. They are something else that they maybe don't like. So I'd rather pretend and live in the world that I pretend than I would be in the world that I don't like that's real.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, similar to that, I feel like, the voices that aren't being heard is a big reason why we wanted to start this whole Young Married Christian thing. James came to me and said, "Hey man, I just heard this whole entire presentation about foster care, orphans, and how there's this big problem, there's this big need, and all of the content out there right now to help those people is just strictly saying the facts. It's literally like if you look up any company or any organization that's trying to help orphans, their whole thing is just, hey, we're here to help orphans. If you need us, call us, look us up online. And so he said, let's make some kind of podcast that can help, that can have a mission, but also create really good content. And I'm like, yeah, I'm on board. Let's do it. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give a voice to those that maybe don't have one, that's not being heard. And we're literally having a conversation with a guy who works for, this company. That's all they do. And I'm new to this world, so maybe I slipped up and used language that I shouldn't have. And I talked about like, oh, we're going to eliminate this problem, like no more foster care system. And he's like, oh, there's always going to be, a problem. There's always going to be like sin in the world. It's always going to bring new kids into the foster care system. And I just sat back and I was like, when I hear words like impossible, and maybe I'll get a little cheesy here, but you take impossible, break it apart. It's I'm possible. I'm standing for I am. Anything's possible with the great I am. And I thought, okay, if I'm looking to buy a house, like me and my fiance right now, we're trying to buy a house. And right now the housing market, like demand is everywhere. Supply, not so much. And so I'm like, what if we flipped that? Because right now it's the opposite with the foster care system. What if we flipped that? And what if every kid was in a forever home and there was literally a line waiting so that as soon as a kid gets into the foster care system, we're calling up the next family, hey, we've got so-and-so ready for you. And it's just as soon as there's a kid, gone. As soon as there's a kid, gone. And I'm like, what about that? And he heard it and he's just kind of like, okay, never thought about that. And I'm like, and that's where we need to start. And I know that for our listeners, some of them have that on their heart. God's put it on their heart. Maybe they're thinking about fostering, maybe they're thinking about adopting, and they just don't know what to do. They don't know who to get a hold of. We've tried to make it very easy. We have this number. You can text the word freedom to the number 833-370-1610. And just by texting that, it's not going to like immediately have a kid show up to your doorstep. You're not going to immediately become, a foster care parent, or you're going to be adopting a kid. But we've kind of got 3 different things that you can do. And we'll have somebody just get a hold of you, have a conversation with you, just figure out where you are in this journey. And, you can either participate and pray with families that are already fostering. We call that wraparound care. So maybe that just means you and a small group at your church. Maybe you've just been reading a book. Maybe you've just been hanging out, and now you want a mission. Now you have a serving mission to where you're actually like caring for a family. Maybe you want to just, learn about it. Maybe you just want to do some research, figure out, what is this? What are those next steps that I could do? And then the last thing would actually be to participate. And, maybe you do want to take that journey and take a kid in. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here. And we're hoping,
love that.
Yeah. And
That's incredible.
And we're hoping that, any of those families, whether they take any of those, 3 different routes, that, we can kind of have like a hashtag foster freedom so that we can see, because we would love to be able to connect with those families, and we don't know, who's actually doing this. But, like we'll be checking Instagram, seeing, okay, the Robinson family, they hashtag foster freedom. We now can see them. We know that family, has adopted, whatever the kid is. And so that we can, help that family out.
Oh, I love that. I think that fostering and adopting is the most valuable thing that anyone can do. And I think the main reason is because when you serve someone, you usually do it for a pretty segmented period of time. Meals on Wheels. I'm going to go once a week for an hour and a half. And that's great. It is great. It's still serving. When you adopt, or when you foster, adopt specifically, but both are in the same realm, it is a lifelong act of service, right? This is a person that I am intertwining with my own existence for their benefit and for yours, selfish on God's behalf. You're intertwining your existences irrevocably. And that is one of the greatest acts of service you could possibly do. I think the Lord has a special place in his heart for people who choose to foster and adopt.
Yeah.
That would be a really hard thing to do. Incredibly difficult. You're going to do it, aren't you? I think that is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have. I would have a really hard time. The main thing I'm concerned about is I don't really like kids. And I was a little worried about whether or not I would like my kids. It was more than a little. I was a lot worried about whether or not I would like my kids. I don't enjoy being around kids for the most part. I'm fine with them being around until they start screaming, and then I'm going to leave that room. I'm going to get away from them. And so there's a piece of me. This is probably too much for this, but there's a piece of me that is concerned that if we adopted a kid, that I would not have the same amount of paternal instincts towards that adopted kid as I would to my own flesh and blood children. It's a combo of that, and also worried about my biological children, and especially if we adopted, I think we'd probably Leen would like to do somebody who's a little older.
Yeah. And
so I don't know if we will. I don't want to.
Yeah.
My wife does, and I do not. It's a lot having biological. So I cannot fathom bringing another one in and then doing it all over with somebody that we adopted. That seems like a ton. I cannot envision going, oh, I'm going to do that. I will if the Lord makes me.
So this needs to be another Africa situation.
I think so, or he needs to do something to my heart to change my perspective on it. It's not my perspective. I understand the value. I cannot think of a better thing to do with my life than adopt a child. I just don't want to. Adamantly don't want to. That sounds terrible. It sounds like it would be incredible. Marriage is incredible, but there was a section of it that was sucked. Having kids, there are parts of it that suck. My old life is dead because I have kids now. And I have a new life that I really like, but I also really liked my old life. It's gone. And so it's that sort of thing, is that I understand the value. I think it would be really great. I'm ecstatic when other people do it, and I adamantly do not want to do it myself.
And I think that our message is mostly to those who already have the calling and they just don't know what to do with that, where to go. So
totally.
So that's why we're trying to give them that. And also the fact that, there's some people out there that haven't even given it a thought. And this is just kind of like a new revelation to them. And we're not asking them to dive in head deep. Go pray about it.
I know.
Go learn about it.
In the course of this conversation, I am feeling pressured
No.
to adopt myself because I've been talking it up. And so now I'm going, well, if you think so great about it, why don't you go do it? And now I'm going, wait.
David, all we ask you to do is go back
I don't
and
think
listen.
you two are pressuring me. That's not what I'm saying. I don't think you two are pressuring me. I am feeling pressure because of the words that are coming out of my own mouth.
You want to mention the 400,000 stuff?
I think that if you knew the 400,000 kids in America is about the same number as the churches in America. So all we need is one family per church. One family per church would completely put us at zero, and then start flipping that to where there's a waiting list. We're not pressuring you, but just go back, listen to this episode, and hear yourself talk. I think we got something there. But you started talking about your kids and your family. We've already talked about your marriage with Leen. What about just parenting? Things that I know you were homeschooled. Do you plan on also homeschooling Rhodes and Rocket?
Yeah, I was homeschooled until I was 13.
Okay.
And we will homeschool them for a couple of years. Me and Leen are currently locked into battle over how many years it's actually going to be. She wants to homeschool them all the way up. I would like for them to have some social skills. So I want them to go to school maybe in like junior high.
But
at
okay.
latest.
And when you put them into school, are you wanting to do private school? Are you wanting to do public school, Montessori?
I would like to not pay for private school.
Okay.
That being said, schools in Nashville are a hot mess. Absolute dog poo. So I don't know.
You hear
We
that,
have
Nashville?
we have a 10-month-old and a 3-month-old, so I'm not really thinking about it at this point.
Right.
I'm mostly thinking about how we're gonna potty train them,
Yeah.
which has been a mess.
Do you feel like that you being homeschooled until you were 13 affected you in any way?
Yeah, I think it was incredibly valuable because of me learning how to learn.
Okay.
And I think it was incredibly detrimental because I did not really learn how to engage with people that I either wasn't around all the time or related to me until I was probably a little stunted until college. I'd say that there's drawbacks to homeschooling on the social front, and there is drawbacks to education on the non-homeschooling front. And that depends on your mother as well, BT Dub, or whoever is homeschooling. It depends on her proficiency in being able to teach. But she is very invested, usually, in helping her own children be educated. So
Okay.
there are pros and cons to both sides.
Okay. And then with your job currently, well, I guess I shouldn't say currently because with COVID, there's not a lot of touring, but your job typically involves a lot of touring and going around. How do you balance out that with intentionality with your boys? Like the time that you actually get to spend with them. Is there anything that's just like, this is me and dad time?
Yeah. I'm not a good person to ask because I really haven't had to deal with that. COVID has been happening. Rocket, my second born, he's 10 months old, so he's born in COVID.
Super cool name.
Thank you.
Is that Rocket Power?
Rocket Man, I don't know any of the words of the song. I better learn it. Child named Rocket. He's actually not named after that. What is he named after? Nothing. Really? We thought we were gonna have a girl, and so that was gonna be our girl name. And then we found out it was a boy, and we're like, we're gonna name a boy. And then he was born, and we went, we still have a name. We should just name him the girl's name that we had. And so that's why he's Rocket. We like that name.
That is a cool name. Okay, so then in the future, do you have any plans for, like, I want this to be father, son, this is our thing, camping, skateboarding? Oh,
I would love for it to be sports.
Okay.
I hope my kids don't do music. Listen, it's adorable, little kid concerts, but I cannot think of a more severe form of punishment than going to a cello concert of my 5-year-old kid. Like it's...
How was that, Daddy?
Yeah.
Not that good, son.
Man, you really... I love you.
Dad never said anything about how good I was.
So contrast that with like Pee Wee football. There's no comparison.
Yeah.
It'd be so much more fun to be a dad of Pee Wee football than somebody playing the trombone when they're 6. So I hope that they're into sports. I'm trying to push them in that direction. That being said, my firstborn is an absolute unit. He is huge. He's the 99.9th percentile in weight, and he's stacked. And he has no interest in anything sports related. He wants to sing and dance. And then Rocket looks like he might be a little bit more athletically inclined.
Okay.
And he's in like the 8th percentile in length and 12th percentile in weight. So I think the Lord's playing a practical joke on me.
Not much to work with there, but hey,
Yeah,
it's okay.
It'll be fun. So if there's father, son, it's too early, bro. Most of it's been in COVID. Rhodes was 1.5 when COVID started or something like that. And so ask me in like 2 or 3 years. I do not currently have any plans, but I would like for that to be the case, is that they're into sports, and that would be fun for me. But whatever they're into, my life is now revolves around my children and my wife. That's, if you don't take that away from this conversation, that means that I haven't said it enough. It does revolve around them. It's Jesus, my wife, and my kids, and that's my life. And then music I throw in as seasoning on top of all of that.
Anything that you want to do differently with them than what your dad did with you?
I want to do a lot of the same things.
Okay.
I think my parents are two of the most incredible people on the planet. I do want my kids to be around more people that aren't like them. I grew up in Midland, Texas, and a lot of my life was, especially homeschooling, a lot of my life was other homeschoolers who were very similar to the Dunn family. And so I want my kids to be around people that aren't like them more. But a lot of the same stuff that my parents do. What do you mean?
How do you do that?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't thought about that a ton. I mostly want to do what my parents did. I think they did a really great job.
What are some of the things that they did really, really well?
Choices. He asked me what are some of the things that they did really well? Choices and personal responsibility, which is hilarious because I'm a Dodger. Personal responsibility, not that big of a deal. Nope, that's a lie. Personal responsibility is a big deal. For me, because I had the authority thing, one of the main things that my father did that was really instrumental was cut me loose when I was 18. I was very much middle finger to my father and mother all the way through. I was very angry that someone had authority over me. It was my parents. And so when it was time to go to college, a lot of people tend to keep their claws in their kids, usually financially. I'm going to keep paying for your school, but you better do good or else we're going to take it away. My parents did not do that to me. My dad gave me some money and said, you can spend this on school or you can do whatever you want. You're not getting any money ever again. And then he kicked me out the door and I went and did my own thing. And to be honest with you, I told my dad this recently and he keeps saying it over and over again, so I think it might be impactful. If they had not done that, if they had kept their claws in me, and I'm going to do this with my boys, if they had kept their claws in me, then I would have tanked my own life to spite them. I would have gone to school and I would have burned my own existence down because it's not mine, it's theirs. I'm going to burn their existence down just to spite them. So I think that saved me. And also, Jesus became mine because they let go. It's very difficult for my mother. And the best thing that ever happened to me was my parents relinquishing control of me when I went off to school. Hard part about relinquishing control is that you're no longer in control. I could have chosen to become a smackhead or whatever. Jumped off the edge of insanity and done my own thing, lived out on the street. I could have done all of those things. Those are all viable options. But the illusion of parental control after somebody turns 18 is, for whatever reason, really incredibly appealing to people. And so them doing that for me, I think it's a good example of them preparing us to take control of our own lives and understand the value of consequences. That's a big part of it as well. They did that with, it was a big deal with me. And they did it child dependent. So they did it with my older brother and they did it with all three of my brothers. I haven't thought about that. They did not do that with my sisters, but they offered to. And my sisters declined. So there was no offer for us. It was the boot, and it was an offer for my sisters.
Well, we're running out of time here today. Last thing I have for you. Have you seen the movie What Happened to Monday?
Nope.
It's on Netflix. Doesn't matter if you've really seen it, but the whole story is the world has come to a place where you can only have one child per family. And
like China.
Yep. And this family, they have 7 kids, septuplets, and they name them after each day of the week. And there's a scene. Yeah, so
I've seen the preview, I think.
So each child can go out one day a week. And the reason why I bring this up is that in the movie, the one child, Sunday, they're having a conversation with her, and they say, but you have to have hope. You're the believer in the family. And they don't say it necessarily, but I believe that's because that's the only child that could go to church every Sunday. So like that was the believer in the group. Church, once a week. None of the other ones ever got to go to church. And my worry is, and I see this a lot, is that our culture and our Christian society is all I do is go to church once a week, and then the other 6 days of the week look like those other 6 people, those other 6 girls, where they don't have the belief, they don't have the religion. So is there anything like a good practical advice that you have for anyone, maybe just for the church or for someone in the church, that they can use to where it's not that case?
Where religion doesn't just become religion on Sunday?
Where every day looks like what that girl's Sunday, yeah.
I think changing perspective of choosing life is religion. Take religion out, but the perspective of choosing life is that Jesus is asking you to live your life in such a way that's best for you. And so choosing life has nothing to do with going to church on Sunday. That's like a American, British creation, this 1 day a week thing. Right. We've created it to be able to do our checklist or pay for the week the other 6 days. But Jesus is about us choosing life. So changing your perspective of, I can choose myself and destruction, or I can choose myself via God. And all of that other stuff is a moot point. You go to church, you don't go to church. You choose life so that you can live. Stop choosing death. Stop choosing your own way, because your own way leads to destruction. Choose God's way because it's best for you. You want to be the first at the table? Put yourself at the last. Serve other people. Live for life here on this planet. Bring heaven to earth.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. I think we're out of time today. David, for our listeners, what are some ways that they can get some more of Double D's, Mr.
Oh, no.
How can they find you?
Anywhere that you find anyone. Type in my name on the internet, and first off, it'll pop up with Bruce Willis from Unbreakable, because his name is David Dunn, superhero. Yeah. And then it will be me next.
Okay. So
Google Shadow.
Outside of like your Spotify and like Apple Music, like music stuff, is all of your social media just at David Dunn?
It's David T. Dunn. All of my social media is David T. Dunn. David Dunn was taken.
Darn. Okay. Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
This was great. Had a good time.
All right, man. Till next time.
Hey, y'all, we hope you loved this conversation. Here at Young Married Christian, we are on a mission to see a gospel-centered home made available for every single child in the foster care system. There are 400,000 kids in the foster care system, and there are 400,000 churches in America. Wow, that is crazy. This is absolutely a solvable problem, and we want to be a part of it. If you want to join us in that mission, text the word FREEDOM to 833-370-1610.
833-370-1610. 833-370-1610.
I just did it.
And another thing you can do that is really helpful is to smash the like button on this video.
Smash it like Satan's face. Crush it like it's Lucifer's head.
It really helps us a ton, so smash that like button, subscribe to this channel.
That's it.
Smash the like button on this video.